Clue the Great Museum Caper is a semi-cooperative game which is played with 2 to 4 people. It is recommended that 4 people actually play the game. The game has similar characters much like the original Clue games such as Colonel Mustard, Miss Scarlet, Miss White, etc. But it does have an additional piece, and that is this gray pawn, which represents the thief who is trying to steal the paintings within the board. When the game begins, the thief actually leaves the area, and the detectives decide to set up the museum however they like. And what that means is they put down these 6 cameras wherever they like, as well as they must put paintings in every colored room. They may, with an additional painting, which would be left over from being in colored rooms, they can double up or they could put them in the gray. You may not put a painting into the hallway. Once the detectives are satisfied, they would call the thief back into the room. They then will sit behind this blind, and what they will do is they will recreate what the actual museum looks like by writing it down on a piece of paper. X's will represent the paintings, and the numbers with the circle represent the cameras. When they are ready to go, the thief will go first by putting an X where they entered, and they will also then put up to 1, 2, or 3 spaces that they move and mark it by putting down a dot. One other item of note when setting up the board for the detectives is the perimeter. There are locks. 5 of them have an L on them, and the other 6 have an open on them, or an O. What this means is when the thief tries to escape, it may prevent them from getting away and could be the difference between victory and being caught. Once the thief has marked their move, then the next person in clockwise order would take their turn. They would actually roll a movement die, and it's a little different because they can roll 1 through 6 and move faster than the thief can. After this player would move, then it would now be the thief's turn to move. Then the next player, and then the thief, and then the final player and the thief, and so on throughout the game. There is a second die that is rolled at the same time by the detectives, and it has a bunch of different symbols on them. 4 of them look like this eyeball. When they roll this eyeball, it actually activates a certain function within the game. If the eyeball comes up, they may choose one of the cameras to look through. And when they choose that camera, the camera will look in all directions orthogonally. So if we choose number 1, it would look down this hall and this hall. If we choose number 2, it would be here and here, etc. If the thief happens to be in the area where the camera is activated, let's say number 2 was activated, the thief would have to say, I can be seen by camera 2. So now the detectives know that the thief could be here or here on any of those spaces. If the thief had been in this corner and there was camera 1 was activated, then conversely, it could only be here or here. It is important to note that the thief pawn does not enter the game board for people to see. It is a hidden movement. The only way it gathers or gets added to the board is if the eyeball is rolled, there's a second function that detective can use. They can say, I'm going to look with my eye. And in this case, you would look, if you were the red piece, again, orthogonally. And if the thief is in that line of view, they then would put their pawn onto the game board for the rest of the game until they escape or they are caught. One of the other faces of the die has a super camera, and what that does is all cameras activate at the same time. So for example, if the thief were here, they would have to say, I can be seen by camera 1, 2, and 5, which definitely narrows down that the piece must be here. However, if they were somewhere like this, and the super camera activates, they'd say, I could be seen by camera 6, or if they were somewhere like this, they could say, no cameras can see me. The last option that could come up when rolling the white die is an M. This is a motion detector. And what that motion detector does is it senses if the thief is in any colored room. If so, the thief would have to say which room they're in. So in this example, it would be, I can be sensed in the white room. This may seem like a daunting task for the thief, but the thief does have options. On their paper, there are different things they can do. First of all, if the motion detector were to come up, they on 2 different occasions can say, I have cut the camera lines. And so they say, I use a snip. So it's 2 freebies to not have the camera work. Additionally, if a thief were to land on a camera on their turn and the next turn remove, they can actually disable the camera permanently. What they would do is they would put an X there, and the next time someone tried to use the camera, let's say they were here and say, I'm going to look through camera 2. And the thief would say, oh, so sorry, camera 2 is no longer functioning. Lastly, the other ability that the thief has in their power is to land here on the actual power grid. Once they remove, they can shut down all power, which means that anytime the motion detector goes off, the super camera, or the cameras themselves, they will not be functioning unless another player is able to land on the spot to turn the power on. Now, if an opponent lands ever on the space where the thief is caught. Just as the thief can be caught that way, they also, though, can steal paintings. When they land on a painting, which is a space that a detective cannot go on, once they move from the space, they immediately take the painting away. This now gives the detectives an idea that, okay, this painting was taken. They can be anywhere that the thief could move 1, 2, or 3 spaces. When the thief feels they've had enough, they can try to escape. They end up going to the space. Again, this may not be on the board because they're still moving secretively. And then they flip over a lock. If it's an L, they do not exit and they have to try another way to escape. This gives the detectives another chance to try and find them. If they try to escape again and they get to an area that has an O, then they get away with as many paintings as they stole, and you get 1 point per painting. You give every person who plays the game a chance to be the thief, and whoever has escaped with the most paintings is the winner.